I did it again. Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's a good thing we went a minute early because you guys are all going to get on here like after that. And things are going way too smoothly. Way too smoothly. Um, but anyway, hi. Hello. Sorry, let me open the chat back up because I had to get into videos. Um, hi. Hi, Haley. I'm so excited that you're here because you are the reason we have this story tonight. Um, okay, J.M. Greenway. Um, so, a lot of you that watch weekly know that I am co host on another show, the Hallowed Hearth podcast, which has become such a big part of my life. And I do that with Haley Hansen. And oh, thank you. Thank you. With Haley, and then also Rachel Ravensvale, who is also amazing. And I am so truly blessed to get to work with both of them every week. And we're doing some stuff. Hi, my sweet girl. So, yeah, like everybody else here, please jump in the chat and say hi because I cannot see how many people are here, like an accurate number. So please say hi in the chat so we can say hi back to you. But I was talking about the hearth. So we've been having authors on the show, and a couple of weeks ago we had Jay Greenway, who is just an amazing human being, and mom says hi to hi Holly, happy almost birthday. Um, but yeah, Jay's amazing, and I'm so glad that I got to meet him over the computer, and we're gonna scheme some ways to meet in person. Um, but he is so wonderful and sent us some short stories. So uh, I don't know if we're gonna do a whole month of Jay. Um, we also, sorry, hang on, forgot to grab this. Ugh, I'm here, I promise. We were also loaned this book, Terry Pratchett, A Stroke of the Pen, The Lost Stories, which has kind of all over the stuff or the place stories. There is what is this called? How Scrooge Saw the Spectral Light, ho, ho, ho. It went happily back to humbug. So I'm thinking maybe on the would be the 22nd. So right before like Christmas in July, maybe we will read that one. So we'll bounce back and forth between the two for a little bit. But thank you to Wendy Carpenter, Wendy Lady, we love you, for loaning us that, and to Jay for sending us some original stories. You guys know how I feel about original stories. I adore them. Back in the winter, we had The Dusty Radio by Heidi McCack on the show, and uh, that honestly has been one of the best received videos we have on the channel. So you guys must love originals as much as I do. So if you would like to have your story, or you know someone similar to Haley knowing Jay and saying, hey, um, please send them my way because we would love to feature them. And even if it is a, hey, I'm workshopping this, so can you read it out loud, and we'll see it. Oh, you did make it. Oh, Kelly, yay. Sorry. So Kelly works at an amazing like natural foods and vitamins and all kinds of good for your body places. And she has had to work on Wednesday evenings, so she has not been able to be with us for a little bit. So yay. Um, I'm hoping heavy listening is going to show up. Possibly Trail Boss Ministries as well. Trail Boss is a huge sponsor of the show. The rest of you guys are just my amazing supporters. You are here with me every week. You keep me going with this, keep me wanting to do it. Todd the Fox Music will not be with us tonight as he is running sound. That means he is outside in the heat and we are in the air conditioning. So, yes. So, tonight's story, written by Jay, is called The Bohemia Incident. And true to the channel, I have only read the first paragraph. Just so that we can absolutely do this cold together and we both get to experience Jay's work for the first time together. So I have rambled on for 6 minutes, also true to form. So I hope you guys have your drinks. What is this? I think this is like an energy shaky drink mix in some flavored water, if I remember correctly. I don't know. It tastes like a bit like a store brand Mountain Dew. So there we go. But yes, I hope you guys enjoy this. Please make sure you tell Jay in the chat how much you are enjoying this. And we'll take breaks kind of during to take drinks. And I'll check in the chat. So again, thumbs up, Jay. Yeah, so again, we'll check in, say hey in the chat so I can say hey back. And let's get going with the Bohemia incident. Two men share a yawning porthole more ample than the dimensions of the narrow room should allow, as the confines are no larger than that of a prison cell. The tranquility and grace of the starry Van Gogh depths beyond the luxurious window contrast the utilitarian canisters and supplies that crowd the hemming shelves in drab hues as equally reminiscent of a penal facility. Ooh. Facing knees to knees in bleak uniforms consistent with the setting, the two men wait on the upload that will dictate the tedium of their shift. Embroidered badges on the shoulders of their sleeves display the blue Neek emblem encircled with DELV Bohemia 42, while similar threadwork on the left breast of their uniforms reveal their station and individual designations. The elder of the two, with thinning gray hair and a face weathered by decades of disappointment, looks from the duty roster in his freckled hand into the reluctant eyes of his young counterpart. Crew waist or galley waist? Your turn for first choice. Shit or slop, the pimpled sophomore says with a cringe. How can you be so blah about it? The lines in Custodian 22's face crease into a pattern of resignation. Living the dream, or the closest I'm going to get to it. Dream? His junior shipmate echoes incredulously, surveying the man's time-textured features for the betrayal of sarcasm. Living the dream would be retiring to the tropics on Homeworld, not cleaning up after this lot for the next 4 years. A philosophical grin exaggerates the deep crow's feet around the older man's somber gray eyes. I've dreamt about being in space ever since I learned about the world before the great collapse as a kid in Utopia City. We'd been out here before, back when everyone lived on Earth, and suddenly being from Mars felt exotic. So did all the colonies in the sphere. It fired my imagination. Now I'm here, and I don't care what I have to do to stay. I don't get it, Custodian 40 counters with a propitious smirk. What took you so long? Custodian 22 checks the time on the personal interference pad integrated into the forearm of his uniform. We should start gearing up. He shifts his weight to stand, but is stayed by the litany of unspoken questions scrolling behind the hazel irises of his young counterpart's eyes. Surrendering to the penalty of his personal history, the elder crewman sighs as he leans back against the locker. By the time I was eligible, I was too old to enlist and too poorly educated to enroll. You've been a starship janitor for 30 years? The junior custodian blurts with much more vigor and volume than he'd intended. Custodian 22's brows rise, while his lips purse tightly against animating his shame with a rash reply. Although reconciled to such scurrilous reactions upon each retelling, the insinuation of failure only chafes the wound that has festered across long years in the recesses of his psyche. He stands quickly, as if attempting to shed the consequences of his past. Sorry, the young man amends quickly, his cheeks and ears reddening brightly. I mean, you never said. I don't understand. Your generation had all the programs and funding and stuff. For those of you just listening, I had to take a pause, just making some mental comparisons. The atramentous melancholy of the senior janitor's countenance escapes the bulwarks of his soul to taint the atmosphere, ooh, like a looming shadow, as he casts a pensive gaze into the eternal expanse beyond the great porthole. Life can deal crushing blows even in the best of times, and decisions that seemed so innocuous when you're young. Yeah, young custodian 40 concedes in a low and pensive tone. I know. Is that why you're here? This cramped little room? Custodian 22 checks him sharply, surveying the spiritless station with a swift gaze that alights pertinently upon the startled youth. What do you mean? Custodian 40 deflects defensively. There are enough opportunities out there to give you a better future than this, Custodian 22 admonishes in a knowing tenor. Custodian 40 stands abruptly, turning his back on his elder in favor of the shelves where he arranges supplies absently under a brooding mask. And you're not the only one who's made mistakes. The difference is, the prosaic sage begins, the depth of his tone drawing his young friend's attention. It's not too late for you. Live. Live your best life. The abrupt opening of the narrow door to their utility station startles the two and shatters the morose moment. The artificial grab in the power plant has been skipping, an officer interrupts brusquely without stepping into the supply closet. There's vomit. We need cleanup ASAP. The ghostly air of unspoken tragedies evaporates as the officer disappears behind the closing door and the two men look at each other in fresh readiness. First choice, the elder says, extending the duty roster to his young shipmate. The junior sanitation engineer scratches the outcropping of hairs on his chin thoughtfully. Well, we're fucked either way, but I think you've already had enough shit. Don't you think we both have? Custodian 22 replies with a checking glance. Ooh, I'm liking this, Jay. Ooh, I'm liking this a lot. Sorry, folks that are new. We have a Leonarding. Custodian 22 shrugs under the weight of the maintenance pack on his back and the deeper burden of stirred memories. Visions laced with violence, loss, and regret tumble through his mind like a pummeling avalanche of jagged boulders. Yet he has no time to indulge the haunting. Pausing at the entryway to the ship's power plant, he closes his eyes and engages a favorite and useful indulgence. Settling his weight evenly, he focuses on the vibration of the ship's engines reverberating through the soles of his boots. The soothing sensation is an idiosyncrasy particular to the standard issue magnetic footwear for his vocation, and a small yet entertaining balm. We do love Leonard. The subtle rhythm reminds him of introducing his young counterpart to the resonance, and Custodian 40's resulting mirth. The memory coaxes a bemused grin and frees his hostage mind from the residue of any lingering remorse. With a cleansing breath, he opens his eyes and reaches for the access panel next to the door to gain authorization to enter the engine room. Pressing his thumb against a scanner, his ears suddenly plug to the point of piercing pain, and he falters, his fingers fanning out on the smooth white wall as he catches himself. Custodian 22 to ops. He pants into the ComNet terminal in the entryway's access panel, struggling to remain conscious. I just got hit by some kind of sonic discharge. I'm outside the power plant. He is answered only by the flickering and failing of the access control's lighted keys. The overhead lights quickly follow suit, leaving him unsettled in the soft blue glow emanating from the faceplate of the personal interface pad on his sleeve. Before he can process his bewilderment, his stomach swims uneasily, and his fingers move swiftly to his pip to activate his magnetic boots before the loss of gravity can lift him from the floor. Sorry, guys, I just got whew. Custodian 22 to ops, he repeats urgently, using the independent ComNet on his pet. His brow furrows when the no signal text pulses on the small monitor, inviting a creeping foreboding into his already unsettled mind. The hope of comfort in the company of the engineers prods him to collect his wits and get past the door. Reaching into his utility belt, he retrieves a small device and places the head of the tool on the door's control panel. A faint electromagnetic charge ripples from the portable power feed as it adheres itself to the terminal. The access panel reactivates, the light of its keys competing with that of the custodian's pip as the door lurches and stalls ajar just enough to provide a grip. The seasoned gaffer slips his strong fingers into the gap and with some effort pushes the door back and into the wall. Okay. He is greeted by a blackness that only a deep space can provide. The sour smell of vomit, and a pungent stench that evokes the echoes of his scarred youth. Although the power failure has robbed the engineering stations completely, the voice of the ship's autonomous computer resounds in the blackness. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Ooh, okay. On the far side of the power plant deck, unseen in the sheltering envelope of artificial night, a nebulous figure stands before an indistinct console. Fingers dressed in sable gloves press a palm-sized disc against the inactive computer console. The disc grips the computer with a faint blue glow and the console instrumentation blink and flicker to life. Computer core, power plant main terminal scrolls across the dim monitor. Transfer feed malfunction, reactor compromise in 3 minutes. The voice of the ship's computer resounds, filling the darkness. Hello? The custodian calls, dread opening his pores as he steps over the threshold into the Stygian void. His trembling fingers tap his pip. A flashlight emerges from his personal interface pad and rotates into position before throwing a powerful beam into the dark chamber. Panning the deck, the ray of light finds each station vacant. Consternation tightens his face as a reflective shimmer overhead catches his eye. As he lifts the beam into the obscured heights of the chamber, a thunder of metallic footfalls explodes onto the dark corridor behind him. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. I know. Well, come on. At the other end of the deck, the silhouette in the darkness manipulates the keypad of the computer's core power plant terminal, ignoring the sweeping beam reaching across the deck. Computer core, memory archive, enter encryption code. The shadowy figure's head turns slightly to gauge the clamor of rushing footfalls pouring from the main entry. Moving closer to the wall, the agent presses a tile on the disk fastened to the computer console. Memory archive directory replaces the words on the monitor and is followed by accessing. Illuminated digits appear on the face of the disk, which, in a flurry of scrolling numbers, increases with the device's pirating of the archive data. Transfer feed malfunction, reactor compromise in 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Oh my gods. Custodian 22 gasps from lips pale with horror. His hands flail in the abyss for an anchor as his feet scramble on heel in instinctive retreat. The constriction of fear stabbing his heart has barely subsided when he is shoved clear of the entryway by the surging storm of security soldiers. Above them, the bodies of the power plant engineers drift weightlessly amid the colossal power plant components entombed in the black shroud of murder. Black shroud of murder? Oh my lord. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. As the numbers on the cartridge continue to skyrocket, the agent turns to assess the bold infiltration and retrieves a small metallic sphere from a hidden pocket. Looking back at the download, and then again to the deck filling with troopers, the inky figure twists the hemispheres of the orb with both hands and tosses it into the dark expanse of the open chamber beyond. Before the agent can return to work, however, a stealthy soldier rushes into the alcove with his rifle aimed to fire. Hands where I can see them. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Still gaping at the nightmare overhead, Custodian 22 is pulled from the paralysis of terror by a strong thud vibrating through the soles of his boots. His foreboding presumption is relieved by the lack of an emergency notification from the ship's computer. The source was not an explosion, yet is quickly followed by the pedal absorption of a second explosive rumble. Throwing the beam of light to his side to find the wall, he shuffles quickly to lay his palm against it. The escape pods. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Undetected by the security teams taking strategic positions across the engineering deck, The small chrome sphere in the center of the benighted chamber hovers to a standstill. With the abruptness of a supernova, it erupts in a blast of white light that tears away the veneer of pitch obscuring the cavernous chamber. The source of the brilliant energy expands into a vortex, dazzling and violent, that throws the soldiers off their mark. At the entryway, Custodian 22 shields his eyes from the blast, overwhelmed by dismay and indecision. Processing through a tempest of instinct, training, and will, he forces his gaze across the deck to the escape pod airlock, where the inconsistency of the churning light makes the hatch combing dance against the chamber wall. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 2 minutes. In the split second the arresting officer is distracted by the burst of light and energy, the cunning agent crushes his esophagus with a lightning strike punch to the throat. As the trooper falls to his knees, the agent swipes the bayonet from the soldier's own belt and coolly sinks it into the man's chest. In the chamber beyond, a shrill, blood-curdling screech pours from the churning vortex to pierce the fetid air. The agent turns back to the disk, and the computer console, unconcerned with the unfolding nightmare on the deck of the power plant. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 1 minute, 50 seconds. A barrage of stringy mucus, like slimy cords of steel, rockets from the center of the blazing gyre to strike the troopers from their marks. With a lethal grip, the viscous tendrils snake around arms, necks, waist, and chest with swift and vile dexterity. Futile artillery blazes wildly at the convulsive hands of snipers in the throes of strangulation, and the doomed triggers of their comrades firing on the unseen monster at the heart of the maelstrom. Like epoxy, the slimy tendrils adhere to the armor and skin of the unfortunate men and women still breathing and pulls them flailing into the devouring vortex. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 1 minute, 40 seconds. 22's quaking turns to nausea as the artificial gravity suddenly returns, and his heavy body slumps under the weight of the fatigue of mortal terror. As he falls against the wall and slides to the floor, a ghastly cacophony of breaking bones and flesh impacting metal rises as the corpses of the power plant crew fall from their weightless heights. The stark light dancing from the vortex exaggerates the silhouettes of the bloodied and twisted carcasses littering the open floor. Limbs snapped in unnatural positions, skulls crushed and spilled, and bodies strewn in grotesque clumps play on the scene like macabre art in contrasting white, pitch, and crimson. Custodian 22 rolls into the corner and vomits. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 1 minute, 30 seconds. In the terminal alcove, the numbers on the face of the disk clinging to the computer panel stop scrolling, and the ebony hand removes the implement of espionage. The agent turns and evaluates the situation beyond the alcove before stepping casually over the body of the murdered warrior. At the threshold of the recess, the harbinger of this horror pauses to survey the fruition of carefully laid plans. A congregation of gruesome corpses litter the deck, spared to fate with their ranks snatched into the spinning starburst will not. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 1 minute, 20 seconds. The overhead lights return, but do little to diminish the intensity of the tourbillon of energy. A familiar voice seeps through Custodian 22's stupor. Swooning, he traces the disconcerting audio to his PIP, where the earnest face of Custodian 40 is pleading from the ComNet monitor. Run! Pierces his mind like a shooting star, slapping him to alertness. Custodian 40 is emphatic. Get out of there! Rallies 22 to his feet with clearer eyes locked on the escape pod airlock. The startling emergence of a figure at the other end of the deck, however, arrests his attention suddenly. The agent, disc in hand, is surprised to find someone still alive and stares in cold stillness at the paltry janitor. The saboteur is confident that the old man is harmless. Otherwise, the monster in the light would not have overlooked him. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 1 minute, 10 seconds. Oh, this is so good. Oh my God, Jay, tell me your phrasing. The custodian returns the calculating stare as his anxious fingers move to the holster of his belt to find only the tools and cleaning utensils thereon. His hand clenches into a fist. The black Machiavelli extends the pirate disc on fingertips as if taunting the old man. I've played a computer before. More than once. That's crazy. Anywho. Custodian 22 glances to the airlock and back to the agent. The saboteur's eyes follow suit, panning from the janitor to the airlock, with lips curled in a grin that sends ice down 22's spine. A tremendous boom jolts the power plant, knocking out the artificial gravity once again. The great bulk of the Bohemia sinks abruptly in its cosmic orientation, causing the corpses and biological debris throughout the deck to float weightlessly at chest level. Gross. Both the custodian and the saboteur, however, remain firmly footed on magnetic soles. Decompression breach, level 31, starboard. The ship's computer announces. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 1 minute. Custodian 22 bolts for the escape pod airlock, racing against the countdown, and the saboteur surely in pursuit. Struggling through a sea of broken corpses, his hands are quickly drenched with the warm blood and gore of the power plant crew as he pushes them frantically out of his path. Each shove testifies to the brutality of the crew's murder. Sharp bone and squishy brain and slick flesh meet his fingers with every stride. Anguish and revulsion feed his despair over the desecration of such valiant comrades, yet stark survival instincts allay the full impact of the travesty. Transfer feed malfunction, reactor compromise in 50 seconds. Releasing the constraints of gravity, the malevolent saboteur circumvents Custodian 22's lead by bounding over and across the horizon of the dead. The force of the agent's airborne sacking throws them both sprawling through the dead and onto the floor. Despite his age, Custodian 22 rides and kicks like a wild boar beneath the weight of a lion. Before the saboteur can get a firm grasp on anything but the custodian's utility backpack, 22 slaps a button on his chest straps and slips away, leaving the villain to wrestle past the appliance. Transfer feed malfunction, reactor compromise in 40 seconds. Every circumstance that ever held him back in life batters his brain, stoking the fires of his determination and desperation, and crystallizing his focus and agility. Under a cast of the strobing vortex, Custodian 22 deactivates his magnetic boots and in one smooth gesture lunges for the airlock. Okay, do it. Okay. The elder crewman sails through the queer light with a thrill of liberation that crescendos with the palm of his hand painted in hemic gore, landing squarely on the airlock hatch release pad. Devastating relief and absolute exhilaration erupt from his wintered core as the inner hatch snaps open and he slips swiftly into the airlock. Without a backward glance, 22 closes the transparency behind him just as the architect of destruction reaches the inner hatch combing. Spinning weightlessly in a cocktail of frenzied panic and his own mad cackling, Custodian 22's mind and fingers grapple and scratch for the control panel which will open the outer hatch to the waiting escape pod. With each confused tumble, he can feel the seconds slipping away as his fingers lash the whirling interior with stripes of blood, while the luminous keys swim obstinately out of reach like skittish koi. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 30 seconds. A concise and thunderous roar rattles the airlock, and Custodian 22's mania falls away, with the escape pod now jetting uselessly into space. Grabbing the handle of the transparent outer hatchway, his harrowed eyes follow the empty pod as it falls silently toward the armada of fortunate escapees. Cold terror gushes from his pores. Behind him, on the other side of the transparent inner hatch combing, the aged fingers remain pressed against the launch command. Oh. Okay, so we're getting at this at the same time. The sobering realization of the saboteur's intent consolidates Custodian 22's legacy of defeat, reducing him to anguished and bitter tears. With unabashed sobs, he reaches for his pip. Every step toward achieving his dream of being in space mocks him as he deactivates the ComNet monitor on which the young Custodian 40's face continues to plead desperately. The defeated janitor turns to the dispassionate eyes of his murderer, while the image of his young friend's face fades to black. You can't do this to me! Framed in the bizarre turning light, the saboteur gazes coldly on the terror contorting the old man's face. Transfer feed malfunction. Reactor compromise in 20 seconds. The vacuum of space muffles Custodian 22's scream almost instantly as the outer hatchway blasts open, sucking the only surviving witness to the strategic travesty into the icy oblivion of outer space. His brain reels in suffocation as his fingers grapple for his pip until his veins and organs rupture in the final grip of the most horrific death known to spacefaring man. Blood and fluid seeping from his broken listlessly against a backdrop of fleeing escape pods and the ill-fated starship drifting toward a serene blue belt of stars. No! Custodian 40 screams, no! Bludgeoned by grief, Custodian 40 looks up from the blank monitor on his sleeve, desperate for a measure of solace from any of the other 9 survivors sharing his escape pod. The shocked and stricken cast staring back at him only compounds the palpable agony of utter helplessness ransacking his soul. In a vacuum of destitution, he turns a forlorn gaze past the porthole at the scores of escape pods an emergency responder swarming expanse. His permeating grief is twisted into surreal confusion as the hulking fuselage of the Bohemia buckles abruptly. What's happening? What's happening? The survivor erupts in a sudden siren shriek, her attention fixed beyond the window as cries of dismay fill the pod. Custodian 40 presses his hands and face to the window frantically as the cityscape portholes of the starship surge to nearly solar brilliance. A sharp and blinding blast assaults his pupils before he can shield his eyes as the Bohemia is consumed in a colossal explosion. Radiation and shrapnel rock the escape pod with frenzied screams. Custodian 40 slumps against the porthole, crushed beneath weight of loss and remorse as searing tears sting his calamity-weary eyes. Sinking in despair, he slumps into the back of his seat and surrenders to fate. Through the soles of his magnetic boots, he can feel the vibration of the escape pod's engines. The bittersweet sensation prods his beleaguered mind to comprehend the tiny flashing light on his forearm. With weak and trembling fingers, he activates the screen on his pip. Live. The end. Oh, it was so good, Jay. Oh. I hope he does. First story from you. I'm going to have to toughen up again. Just being a baby on these stories is getting to be a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much. Haley, thank you for I know, definitely goosebumps and like I'm sad. And I want them to like put some I don't know if he deserves a monument, but he needs something custodian 22 so people remember him. I hope people remember him. I know he's fictional, but I want people to remember him. Even better than you remembered. Good. 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 Um yeah, if you guys liked that and you want to read more from Jay, um I'm so sorry, Jay. I cannot think of the whole title right now. But the cover of the book in big words, big letters, sorry, big words, big letters says Raven Word. So look it up. Booksellers, book resellers, booksellers. Raven Word by Jay Greenway. I don't know why I want to say Greenwell. That's not it. It's Jay Greenway. So please, he is right here in the chat. Right here. Right here. That's him. Jay is right there. But yes, I really did enjoy that, and I want to read the rest of them. I can't wait to read the rest of them. And now I'm gonna have to be patient because we do read cold. I don't want to read them ahead of time. Um, it was so okay, you guys. This is huge. Sorry, this is huge for me. It was so cool hearing it in someone else's voice for the first time. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do here. If you guys were wondering, what is this? What are you doing? Why do you want original authors? Because of this. Because yeah, authors hear this in the voices that they've given the characters or their own voice sometimes when they're writing. I know Um, a lot of the authors that we've had said, the story just kind of the characters tell their own story. So yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Um, we are right at the 45-minute mark. I'm not sure. Do. Oh, do you guys want a short one out of this book? Okay, so go look for the book. I'm going to put this on the screen. This is what you guys need to write down, screenshot, whatever. Ravenword and the House of the Red Death. Please, please, please go buy this book. Support our author. Um, if you are not so much into Poe, but you have somebody in your family, in your life who you love, who loves Poe, send them that book. Get it for them. It would be a wonderful gift. I'd be so excited to get this in the mail. So yeah, I just need to get my copy on its way. But we do have a super short one. Super short. It is 2 pages. 2 pages. So we'll get a little taste of this book. Thank you again, Jay. We're going to read this little one called Arnold, the Abominable Snowman. Granny Weatherwax was not lost. She wasn't the kind of person who ever became lost. It was just that at the moment, while she knew exactly where she was, she didn't know the position of it anywhere else. That's from the Weird Sisters. As it goes with witches, so it turns out this sometimes happens with stories. A little while after pressing Control P on the hardcover of A Stroke of the Pen, a further tale was discovered stuffed down the back of Colin Smythe's metaphorical sofa. The full text of Arnold, the Abominable Snowman, has now been lovingly included for this new edition. Rob Wilkins. Once upon a time, there was a snowman. He wasn't an abominable one, like the ones that grunt and sneeze up on distant Tibetan mountains, but quite English and completely abominable. He was built by some children, but when everyone had gone to bed, he jumped around the lawn and waved his arms to keep warm. Blow this for a lark, he said. Those kids ought to know it takes more than a jumble sail hat and 3 bits of coal stuck down your tummy to keep you warm on frosty nights. There was a bang, and a shower of sparks, and a tall lady appeared as if by magic. She was wearing a very severe business suit and horn-rimmed glasses, and was peering at a list. I'm your fairy godmother, she said uncertainly. I didn't know snowmen had fairy godmothers, said the snowman. You must admit it sounds quite unlikely. I don't know, said the lady. You're on my list. A snowman, it says here. That's A for Arnold, said Arnold Snowman. Well, Arnold, I'm empowered to grant you a wish under the Magic Wishes, Wishful Thinking Act, Clause 19A. Be quick. I've got several other calls to make. Quick as a flash, Arnold Snowman said, I'd like a nice warm overcoat. Well, of course, he nearly melted when he wore it. When his fairy godmother came back, he was half his normal size. So instead, he asked for a nice warm fire. That kept him warm too, but melted him just the same. In fact, if there hadn't been a power cut, he'd have melted clean away. You're a pretty ignorant snowman, and snowmen aren't generally very brainy, said his fairy godmother. You've got one last wish. Don't ask for anything daft like a plate full of curry. Soon, the sun came up and a thaw set in, and at last Arnold Snowman burst out, I want to be somewhere nice and cold. And who should be passing by but the manager of a frozen fish fingers firm who saw that Arnold Snowman could keep cool in an emergency. He offered him a job on the spot as head packer in the very coldest of the frozen fish warehouses, with good wages and the chance of promotion to chief breadcrumb sprinkler. Because Arnold Snowman was such a cool customer, he soon made enough money to retire to a deck chair at the North Pole. Moral: electricity is clean, quick, efficient, and scarce. It's smart to be cool. And if you're a snowman, you're bound to get on. Cute. Cute, cute, cute. Okay. All right, guys. This was a good Wednesday. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you again to Jay and Haley and our wonderful sponsors and all of you guys who hang out with me on Wednesdays. If you have not done so yet, please like, share, subscribe. If you guys see the little hype button, can you hit that? It's like a new thing where you can hype the channel and it like gets smaller channels out there and gets them seen. So, yeah, I just heard about that yesterday and I was like, ooh, I need to remember. So yeah, if you guys see the little hype button, hype the channel. You're already here. You're already here. Just do the thing. Help me out. Help us out. We are going to, we got some good stuff coming up. We got good stories here. We got amazing stuff on the hearth. So make sure you guys check that out tomorrow night. That is the Hallowed Hearth podcast. Let's kind of do some crossing back and forth. Let's support each other. If there are channels you guys want me to check out, put them on here. Send them in a message. You guys know where I'm at. My name is the same on all of my social medias. You can find me on any of them. So, with that being said, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Please try to stay cool if you're in one of these super hot zones. I will see you next Wednesday right here at 7:30.